Hello? Folks, I'm going to give you a little bit of housekeeping. Restrooms are back here. The Sands Club has asked if you're moving around to wear a mask. And if you want coffee or breakfast or anything, just let the servers know and they'll bring that to you. Okay, we'll be getting started here shortly. Thank you all for being here so far.
Thank you.
In business, it goes up, it goes down. Well before the pandemic. It could be a double. So the real question is, what has changed? What is different about our customer patterns and habits? What is different about delivery of product? Asking those questions and learning from them can make a difference on how we adapt and during this time.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Well, you're all getting fed, right?
Yes.
Great. Well, I want to welcome you to Tucson Hispanic Chamber of Commerce's roundtable event here at the wonderful Arizona Sands Club. For those of you who are streaming from home or your office, you're missing out on a wonderful location. And we're right in the middle of Arizona Stadium with a fantastic view. And before we get started, can I hear a bear down? Bear down. Bear down. All right, let's go. And if you're a Sun Devil, we welcome you as well. My name is Oscar Diaz. I am the Vice President of Business Development for CBiz Employee Benefits, and I'm also the Tucson Hispanic Chamber's Treasurer. I want to welcome everybody here. We've got a great event. We've got a great panel of highly educated people in the room. So we put all that brain power to work, we could do wonderful things. So today we're going to talk a little bit about education and the evolving education landscape here in Arizona. And particularly in Tucson. What I wanted to mention is that the Tucson Chamber of Commerce has a long history of supporting education efforts in our community. And sometimes people don't know about that. Let me tell you a little bit about the things that we've done in the community in the past. We provided scholarships to local area students. We've supported the AZ Earn to Learn program. We've conducted business classes in local classrooms. I conducted those and I became much more appreciative of what school teachers have to go through every single day, because it's not an easy thing to do. And for the past several years, we've partnered with several school districts here in the area and the University of Arizona's Eller College of Management to conduct the Young Entrepreneurs Academy on-site at Eller College. So we've taken kids from local schools from all the way from age 10 on up, and they've been able to start their own companies at Eller College. So that's a program that we've had in place for a while. We're also working on developing other cooperative educational programs to benefit youth, and we look forward to conducting our supportive educational efforts throughout the community. Because of our long-standing relationship with the education community, and because of how the education community affects business, we felt that it was important to bring that education community here to a roundtable to talk about how education affects business. Before we start our event, one of the things I want to do is I want to thank our presenting sponsor, BBVA. So BBVA, thank you so much for sponsoring this great roundtable event. I'm also pleased to welcome our live audience, our streaming audience, and our in-person special guests. Is Cassandra Becerra here? Oh, there she is. Cassandra Becerra is from Congressman Grijalva's office. Thank you so much for being here, representing Congressman Grijalva. We appreciate that. I also want to welcome our board of directors in attendance. Please raise your hand. There's a few board of directors here. And Carla Morales as well, our chairwoman, who will be speaking in a minute. I now want to welcome actually our keynote speaker, Dr. Bruce Johnson. Dr. Bruce Johnson is with the University of Arizona. He's the Dean and Education Professor of Teaching, Learning, and Social Cultural Studies, member of the graduate faculty. We'll be showing a video for Dr. Johnson here briefly. Our panel, who will be coming up later on, is Marla Franco. She's the Assistant Vice Provost of Hispanic Serving Institution Initiatives at the University of Arizona. Dolores Cerda Duran, she's Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at Pima Community College. And if you haven't been paying attention to what's going on at Pima Community College downtown, there's a lot of cool stuff going on downtown. I just passed by the other day and the buildings are just going up quickly, so that's pretty exciting. Adelita Grijalva, our Pima County Supervisor and Tucson Unified School District Governing Board Member. We've got Dustin Williams here, our Pima County School Superintendent. We've got Steve Holmes, Sunnyside Unified School District Superintendent. Go Blue Devils, class of 1980. That seems so long ago, doesn't it? Man alive. Half of you weren't even born then. We have Anais Ballesteros, Communications Director of All In Education. We have Hans Raymond, Director of Online School of Arizona. And we have Mario Castro, Central Campus Principal for JTED. Our distinguished moderator today and a very long-time supporter of the Tucson Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is Dr. Sofia Ramos. She's the president of Luminario Education Studies and Career Development and an advanced strategies consultant. Before we start, though, I want to introduce Carla Morales, the chairwoman of the Tucson Hispanic Chamber, who's going to say a few words.
Thank you, Oscar. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I just wanted to officially welcome you all and thank you for your participation and your involvement in such an important conversation and such a rich discussion. I also like to thank the panelists for joining us, all of them, every single one of them. I'm fortunate to call my friends and my colleagues at one point. Thank you all so much. And before I say anything else, I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to the staff that put all of this together. They work so hard to make sure that we have successful events and that we have the right panelists having the conversation. So thank you all so much. Allergy, sorry. But thank you all of you that are joining us as well and taking part of these roundtables. We have so many more to come, and we look forward to you all attending the rest of them because they're going to be so incredibly interesting and so rich as well. So please make sure you keep in touch with us so we can give you more information about the upcoming events, and visit our website and get more information about the other upcoming events. Quick reminder, if you all didn't know it, the 40 under 40 applications are open. Please nominate your favorite, your most amazing young leaders in our community. Thank you all so much. It's a pleasure. Thank you, Oscar.
Thank you, Carla. If anybody wants to nominate me for the 60, almost 60, you can do that. Or the 60 over 60, if that's a thing. If it's not, I'm going to make it happen. We're going to go to Dr. Johnson's keynote video. So if we can cue that up. Or presentation, I'm sorry. I thought we had a video. Dr. Johnson.
Thank you. Great to be here today. Thanks so much for the invitation. I'm really pleased to be here today to talk about what's happening in education, what might happen in education. This is a really great panel that you're going to hear from and have a discussion with in a few minutes. And so any one of these panel members, we could have swapped places and they could give you their perspective just as easily as I can. But I'm going to give you my take. And they may differ with some of that. So it'll be an interesting discussion. Let's see, do we have the slides? Oh, there we go. Okay. So I am Dean of the College of Education. A College of Education at the university prepares all kinds of educators, teachers, counselors, school psychologists, educational leaders, higher education, staff members and faculty. So we do a lot of things beyond just kind of the normal, what people think we do is preparing classroom teachers, and we obviously do that, and that's the core of what we do, but we actually do much more than that. What I would like to do today is taking this theme of evolving education that you're looking at, and think about what will we do in the future? What do we learn, and how will it lead to change? And will it? Are things going to change, or are we going to slip back to the way they were before? And obviously, we all know that things have needed to change in education for a long time. And so the idea of slipping back to what it was is really a no-go. We can't let that happen. We have to improve things. And I think we've obviously had lots of challenges over the last year and challenges ahead. We also equally have lots of opportunities that emerged over the last year, and others that have kind of been sitting there waiting for us to grab hold, and I think this is a really nice opportunity to do that. So I'd like to share some thoughts on opportunities and challenges, and then some cautions to close before we get to the panel. I'm going to do this so I don't have to look over my shoulder all the time. So first, the first challenge really deals with inequities of opportunity. And so over the last year, we've really noticed, and it's really become incredibly apparent, that there are incredible inequities built into our educational systems. These inequities have been around a long, long time, so they're nothing new, but they become much more apparent, I think, to everybody. We can't hide from these any longer. And so I would like to share a few of those. So first, obviously, internet access was one that became readily apparent immediately as soon as everything went online. Some people have it, some people don't, and everything in between. And so that obviously has been a giant issue over the last 15 months. Technology itself, again, those who have, those who don't, and everything in between there. So those are the obvious ones. Another one that's popped up, though, when I talk to teachers is that there are many cases where teachers have talked about the fact that they're teaching remote students who are online, and sometimes both those parents have to work and they're not in the home. And those kids are responsible for younger kids. And so, we hear sometimes that families don't provide enough support for students. There's no family in the world that doesn't want their students to succeed and do everything they can to do that. But the reality is, it's easier for some people to do that than it is for others, just because of the resources they have. I don't know what I'm doing to get this off all the time. Let's see. Could you? Am I pushing it? Okay, I gotta keep my hand under control here. Oh, no, back up if you would.
Sorry. No, I did the same thing.
That's a really sensitive clicker.
I breathed on it.
So remote teaching is another challenge. We did learn some things about how it can be done poorly, and that's with us at the university as well as pre-K-12 schools. Now, it's not always done poorly. In fact, we'll talk in a minute about the things we learned about doing it really well. But part of what happened, I think...
Yes, it did it by itself.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
There's a ghost in here.
But I think the suddenness of everything, if you remember back to last March when things just all of a sudden went without teachers, maybe had a week to prepare at the most. Children and families had a week to prepare, and people just weren't ready for it. And so the suddenness of it and the lack of preparation really exacerbated those challenges and caused a lot of really poor teaching and learning for a long time until people figured it out. So the same happened to us at the university. We did it suddenly as well. We've had some faculty, obviously, who've been teaching online for a long time and do it quite well, and we have great support systems for that, but we also have faculty who've never taught an online course before March of 2020, and they were not happy. And they had to learn on the fly very, very quickly, and the same thing that happened with pre-K-12. So I think that lack of support, or that suddenness, made it really difficult. But one of the lessons from that is the context really matters. And so you can have the best online teacher and the best technology and the Wi-Fi's working great and everything, and you can be all set up for really great things, but the context behind that might make that really good online course and teacher not very effective. If students are home alone watching Three Little Siblings, it's going to be really tough for them no matter how good the teacher and how good the materials are. The third one is teacher recruitment and retention. This has been a long-standing issue, particularly in Arizona, giant issue in Arizona. And the question right now is whether this is going to even get worse. Are there more teachers who are not going to come back next year because this year just kind of wiped them out? And you hear talk of that, we just don't know the effect of that. Some of our other panelists might be able to talk to that better than I can, but that's certainly a worry. But there are some long-standing problems with recruitment and retention that are not just the number of teachers. They're who are the teachers? And this has been a problem for a long time. I'm going to share some data with you in a moment, but there's a giant disconnect between the demographics of teachers in this country and the demographics of students. And that gap is widening, actually. Teaching field is actually getting a little bit more diverse, but students are getting way more diverse, much more quickly. And so that's an issue, and I'll talk about some of the changes that are happening to address that issue. And finally, we often have teachers, particularly when we have to hire teachers who because we're desperate and need to fill a classroom, it's really easy to end up with teachers who don't know the community, who don't understand the culture of the community, who aren't able to take advantage of the funds and knowledge in the community. Those are really big issues that are always a problem, but they get even worse when we're in this kind of teacher crisis situation with recruitment and retention. Okay, next one. So in 2019, I was part of a National Academies panel that took a look at what we know about the teacher workforce. And when the National Academies do a study, they commission a group of people from around the country to come in and actually examine data around these issues. We're not allowed to just put our own opinions. Everything in the report has to be based on actual evidence, as much as there is. And so we spent a year studying this issue, and the charge actually in the beginning was to look at the changing nature of the K-12 teacher workforce and what are the implications for that for education. And what we found out, we actually had to change the title in the end because the nature of the K-12 teaching workforce is actually not changing. That's part of the problem. It is actually even a little more female than it was 30 years ago, vastly female. It is still predominantly white by a long shot, and it is, so those things have not changed very much. What's really changed are what we're expecting teachers to do in the classroom. That has really changed. But there are these are just a few of the conclusions that I want to point out that are relevant to the situation today here. First of all is the composition of the teacher workforce, and that includes gender, age, race, ethnicity, years of experience, really has not been changing much at all. Contrary to what a lot of people think, it really hasn't been. Secondly, again, this racial and ethnic composition of the teacher workforce has actually, the mismatch has been growing larger. And we know, it's real clear from data, from studies that have been done over and over again, to show that when you have that mismatch, students don't do as well. And so that's a problem. Third, there are increased demands for teachers, both in terms of academics, but also in terms of the breadth of content they're expected to teach and the accountability that teachers are being held to, people watching over their shoulders. So all those things make it difficult. Finally, students of color, students from low-income families, and students who are low achieving are far more often served by teachers who are less qualified. There's a strong correlation there. And that's exactly the opposite of what we should be doing. So just some data for you on that. If you look nationally, the last national data I saw is 3 or 4 years old now, but the demographics of the student population nationally is about 51% BIPOC students. So only about 49% white nationwide in K-12 schools, public schools. The teaching force, 10% BIPOC. So that's an amazingly large discrepancy. So what do we do about that? In our college, we've been working really hard to try to make sure that our students and our faculty and our staff more closely reflect the demographics of the people we serve. So every year we take a look at that and we try to get inroads on that. And things are improving a little bit. Out of our graduate students in our college, we have about 800 graduate students in the College of Education. 55% are BIPOC. Undergraduate students, about 900, 51% are BIPOC. And those creep up a little bit each year, working hard to do that. Our faculty, 41% of our tenure track faculty are BIPOC. But we also look at programs, because some programs are much more diverse than others. And so our elementary education program is 60% BIPOC, including 44% Latinx, the biggest group of our elementary ed, and 9% indigenous students. And so that's a program we put a lot of emphasis in really trying to recruit locally and recruit students of color. Some of our other programs are in that range, maybe not quite as high, 50 to 55%. But then we have some, like we have a large deaf studies program. That's only 27% BIPOC. So we're trying to take a look at particular programs and how do we recruit students in and support them to better match the communities they'll be working with. Okay, next one. But what are the opportunities here? Obviously, increasing technology and support for technology opens up access. And so we know that there are people who can participate in things through technology that could not do that otherwise. And so we can use technology, we know it can be done well, and we can use that to open up access for people. Increasing access is really key. I'm going to talk more about that when we get to teacher recruitment and retention. But we also know that remote teaching and learning can be done quite well. And so it can be done very well. Again, context matters. You have to pay attention to the situation it's in and provide the proper supports, but it can be done quite well. And then finally, teacher recruitment and retention. We've been placing a lot of effort on trying to recruit locally for teacher candidates and for our other education professions, trying to find people from the communities in which they live, in which they can work for a variety of reasons. Number one, we know that teachers who teach in their own community are much more likely to stay in their profession long term. They're much more likely to stay at that school or in that district long term. So that's really important, but they also know the community. They're able to take advantage of those funds of knowledge. They're able to be better teachers, and academic achievement goes up. And we also though have opportunity to really start treating teachers more like professionals. So I actually became a teacher in Arizona. My first teaching job was 1981. So if you think graduating from high school in 1980 was old, wow. I was teaching you. But we have to, now I lost my whole train of thought here. Teaching teachers as professionals. The situation with treating teachers well has actually gotten worse since 1981. There are more and more micromanagement of teachers, more and more mandates, more and more people looking over their shoulder and treating them as if they don't know anything. And so we're going to micromanage everything you do. And there's a lot of pressures on teachers from that. And frankly, that's why some teachers leave. They're tired of that. Next slide, please. I'd like to talk about some examples of things that I think are positive. And these are there are many positive things you hear from some others as well, but these are things that I'm involved with and can speak to specifically. So Pathways to Teaching. This is a program that we've started at our college, partnering first with Sunnyside School District, and it's a grow your own teacher preparation program. We target people in the Sunnyside community. Many are paraprofessionals already working in the district. We partner with Pima Community College and make sure that they get their associate's degree or the proper coursework to be able to come to the university for our 4-semester program. We condense that a little bit, 4 semesters in 17 months. We teach the classes out at Sunnyside, in a Sunnyside school, and we partner with Sunnyside so that between us and Sunnyside, we're able to pay all their tuition and fees and give them $1,000 a month living stipend in addition, so that, which isn't much different than take-home pay if you're a paraprofessional, so that they can actually afford to quit their job for 17 months, end up with a university degree, and be able to teach in their community. And so it's a way to get people, bring in people, provide access to people who just otherwise there's no way they could afford a university degree. We've expanded. We're now partnering with Sunnyside again, but also with Douglas, Nogales, Altar Valley. Next January we'll be partnering with Casa Grande as well. So that's a nice model that we're thinking will work particularly well in rural communities. Arizona Teachers Academy is state funding that allows us to pay tuition and fees for students to go through either undergrad or grad teacher preparation programs, as long as they agree to teach in a public school somewhere in Arizona for the number of years they're funded. And so we have something like 190 students this year who had their full tuition and fees paid through that. And so that program is the state brought that in, and so that's makes a real difference. I know Pima Community College also has Teachers Academy. Teacher professional development and career development. The Tucson Regional Educator Collaborative is something that we've been developing over the last 2.5 years in partnership with many of our local school districts, education agencies like the Pima County Superintendent's Office. ADE's been involved, many professional development providers, and many other people interested in education and in teachers. And it's an opportunity to try to, again, establish more of that sense of professionalism in teachers and give them a little more choice over their career development. And also one place they can go to find out about all the opportunities in the region. So that is something that again is really important to address that career development and retention. And then for teacher retention, if you may be familiar with the Center for Recruitment and Retention of Math Teachers. It's been going on here for I think 21 years now through the math department at the university, that provides just really superb mathematics professional development for math teachers from pre through 12th grade, and in partnership with districts and schools and other organizations. And that's another example of providing that kind of support. And then finally, Teachers in Industry is one where we partner with business. And so this is our 14th summer that's starting right now. We partner with STEM industries and businesses who provide summer employment for STEM teachers. We help find the teachers, we help line them up with the right kind of job. They're actually paid industry wages for the summer to work in the industry. They're not hanging out making copies. They're actually working in the industry. It's very competitive to get into those jobs. But while they're doing that, they work 4 days a week, and on the 5th day, they take courses with us that help them identify the practices that are going on in that STEM industry and how they bring those back to their classroom, which is not an easy task. And so that's been going for a long time. Like I said, 14th summer coming up. We were to the point 2 years ago where we had 50 teachers a summer across the state doing this. Last summer we were greatly reduced. I think we had 6 because they had to do it virtually. But we're gearing back up to expand that back to in-person again. And so one of the things I want to point out, could you go back one, please, Sophia? On all of these things, every single one of these is partnerships. Nobody is doing this alone. So Pathways is partnerships between our college, between Pima Community College and school districts. Arizona Teacher Academy, we work with the state and with the Arizona Board of Regents and with school districts on that. Tucson Regional Educator Collaborative, all kinds of partners. As I mentioned, Center for Recruitment of Mathematics Teachers, again, partnerships with schools and districts and agencies. Teachers in Industry, partner between education and business. We really have to work together to make these things happen. And next, Sophia. So we really do have to work together to address these issues. But I also, one last caution, it's really easy to fall into the deficit trap of thinking that, okay, so many kids missed out on a year, they're broken. They don't know anything, they've lost it all, we got to fix them. That's a really dangerous trap to fall into. We have to remember that these are young humans who have a lot going for them. They have great potential. We can take advantage of what they know and their experiences, but also their families and their communities. We have to be careful not to think of this from a deficit kind of situation. Let's think about moving forward, and we have to do that together, and we have to keep thinking positively that this is a real opportunity to change education for the best. So look forward to discussion. Thank you all. That's yours.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. That was a great presentation. It's really good to see, in our own backyard, the University of Arizona, and the type of collaborations they're having with a variety of stakeholders in the community and how that's creating changes. And, one of the things that we want to talk today about is evolving education. And you can clearly see here at the University of Arizona that they're working to make sure that the teachers that they're teaching and the programs they're putting in place are constantly evolving. I am going to walk that way because I'm getting feedback here. So walk with me, please. Plus, these people over here I think might have been missing me. Right there. So we're going to get back to our presentation in a minute, but we have to thank a few folks. So we want to thank some of our sponsors. So our community sponsors are the University of Arizona, Pima Community College, Pima JTED, Arizona Sands Club, Southern Arizona Video Productions, Sunnyside Unified School District, Pima County School Superintendent's Office, All in Education Leadership Power and Justice Program, our corporate members who we count on greatly at the Chamber, Wells Fargo, Community Casino del Sol, Southwest Airlines, Altria, the University of Arizona Tech Parks, Arizona, Comcast, Vantage West Credit Union, the University of Arizona, Simply Bits, BBVA, our presenting sponsor, Chase, Desert Diamond Casino and Entertainment, Arizona Complete Health, Janipro, Cleaning and Disinfecting, and Hensley Beverage Company. And then we also want to thank our media partners who help get the word out for us. La Buena 94.3 and 990 AM, Arizona Daily Star and Tucson.com, Foro Social, Hola Tucson, 106.3 The Groove, Channel 40 Telemundo, Arizona Bilingual News, Two Busy Gals, La Caliente 92.1 and 95.7, Tucson Local Media, The Voice 1030, Southern Arizona Video Productions, and Sun Magazine Arizona. So thank you very much to all of these partners who are supporting the Chamber in these events. What we'd like to do now is we'd like to start our program, our panelist program. And so what I want to do is invite our panelists and our moderator up. So when you're ready, we're going to go ahead and bring you on up. In the meantime, as they're coming up, I want to remind folks to go on social media, on the Chamber social media site, and share our event. Remember, likes are good, shares are good, and comments are good. So please do that. So just to remind you who our panelists are, we have Marla Franco with the University of Arizona, Dolores Cerda Duran with Pima College.
Test, 1, 2.
Adelita Grijalva, Pima County Supervisor, Dustin Williams with the Superintendent's Office, Anais Ballesteros with All in Education, Hans Raymond with Online School of Arizona, Mario Castro with JTED, and of course our moderator today is Dr. Sofia Ramos. Dr. Ramos, the mic is yours.
Buenas tardes. ¿Dice tardes? Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes. It's great to be here with you today. We have got a jam-packed event with all these wonderful speakers. So before we get started asking them some very important questions, I want to set the stage for you. Today is about transforming and pivoting and partnerships, building on partnerships and really taking what we've learned together and moving it forward. The Chamber has decided that is embarking on developing community and bringing us together so that we can work together to solve the community problems and to make sure that all that we do is in service of our community. So 2020 was a difficult year. Approximately 600,000 deaths in the US alone. This has touched all of us, our friends, our family. We've all been forced to pivot, and we've all been forced to do things differently. Some of us worked at home, some of us lost our jobs. And so these are things that are affecting our students. And today we're going to talk about how do we work together to help our students. The positive effects, global carbon dioxide emissions fell 6.4%, 2.3 billion metric tons less in 1 year. When we've always said for the longest time that we couldn't get rid of our cars, somehow this year we did. So that's really important for us to think about. How do we go forward and take advantage of not hurting our earth? Harsh realities, this is something that we'll talk about today. 50,000 K through 12 students did not come back to school. Survey of the American College Students said that 21% of students in households making less than $25,000 a year left during the pandemic. 38%, that's a horrible number for us today. 38% of students of color left because they could not afford tuition. They're taking care of their tata, their nana, their children, their cousins. 25% who left will not be coming back. That's a horrible number for us to think about. And 19% of undergraduate students will not graduate due to pandemic. So those are important things to think about today. Our panel today is going to share their wisdom. They're going to tell us how they pivoted, and they're going to tell us how we can work together as a community to take the solutions forward. I'm very excited to tell you a little bit about what community members have done. The Chamber worked tirelessly, endlessly on the community. They were involved in care relief funds, and they also helped businesses in the community keep their doors open. They worked with people who needed help, who felt hopeless, helpless, and they were able to connect them with resources so they could continue to keep their doors open and look for solutions. We want to celebrate at the university, Paloma Beamer, Celeste Gonzalez, Nolan Cabrera became full professors. For our community, that is huge. And I probably missed some, but let's celebrate the ones that I actually got a hold of. We also got Michelle Tellez, got tenure. Now these are huge, huge accomplishments that we all need to celebrate together. Sadly, the pandemic did affect people, and for some people it was harder than others. We really have to think about our vulnerable populations, and this community is about our vulnerable populations. So let's talk about how we can amplify positive outcomes and how we together can work for our community. Our keynote, Dr. Bruce Johnson, works tirelessly on education. He is a great leader and a great person to have in the position he's in. So let's work with him and Pima and U of A and all our school districts together. We can put some of these solutions together. Let me go ahead and set this up for you now. I've got some questions for you, and there's 8 of you. We've got to... Let's think about that. So we've got about 45 minutes, is it? 40 minutes to get through some... We've got some good questions. And what we'll do is probably I would advise you to spend 2 minutes on your answers, okay? Let's not do a 10-minute answer because we'll run out of time. Let's talk about your strengths. What did you learn and what can you share that you can maybe partner with, that we can amplify? And we'll start with Dustin.
Well, first of all, thank the Hispanic Chamber for having us here and all the constituents streaming on Facebook. Glad to be here. As the elected Pima County School Superintendent, we get to see the eagle eye vision and work with all of the entities of education and state and federal in some circumstances. So for us, we looked at everything with COVID, and we said one negative will turn into two positives. So what we got and what we see now is a playbook. Before in politics, there was a bully pulpit. We could always use this language of going back and forth of disparities, inequities, but now it's on paper, and we get to actually factually see it. And so when we talk about technology divide, we can actually see heat maps of data plans of actually where those divides lie and how we can actually tackle those problems as a whole. And so I think that has been the big thing. As Bruce said, together is how we're going to work this. And so the partnership that we have seen build between especially county, local here with Pima County, and then all schools, district, charter, private, and homeschool community, has been something that's never been done before, at least in my term or maybe in the past. So to see those two divisions start to connect and build strategies and solutions going forward as a group is going to be very powerful going forward.
Steve?
Sure, I'll join. Buenas tardes. Thank you for the chamber for inviting us. The strengths that I saw, are just more specific to school districts, is that it's forced a lot of us as superintendents to collaborate together. I think we're much more unified than we've ever been historically as a school system serving Pima County, and that this is just uncharted territory. So the discussions we're having and the types of collaboration that we're having, I think is going to be something that's going to be a strength for us moving forward, because we have colleagues now in the work. I think Arizona did a really good job of setting up a competitive structure amongst us, and I think this unfortunate situation has really unified us into really thinking more about the community in large and not about our individual kind of groups. So there's more of an altruistic feeling among superintendents around community that I think is going to be long lasting as we move forward.
Thank you. I have the unique position of serving on the TUSD governing board and also being a Pima County supervisor. And so what we've always known is that our schools were hubs for our community. We didn't realize that we also were feeding, clothing, providing all of the technology. And so one of the things that we had to do really early on as districts is figure out a way to feed our kids. And so the disparities between the children that are the have and the have-nots, when you look at it on a census tract and on a map, that's when it is striking. That's when you see how poverty and disproportionate number of people that are working in our essential jobs that were completely devastated by COVID. 1 of 450 people in Pima County died because of COVID. That's not talking about the people that we that were sick. And so, and hi, 2 times I got COVID. So it was like, I will be wearing this mask for a while. But I do think that it's important for us to understand that we have to serve those that don't have access. And we have schools in our community right now that don't have internet. They don't have high-speed internet. That to me is the disparity and the children that we lost. TUSD lost almost 3,000, Sunnyside probably 1,500. And they're here in our community. They haven't left. They just couldn't access school. And so that to me is a disgrace for us to not be able to do that. So to have the position that I have now in Pima County to work with the health department and with our IT department to try to fix some of those things and those disparities is going to be really critical.
Thank you. Marla Franco from the University of Arizona, Assistant Vice Provost for Hispanic Serving Institution Initiatives. I think during this time, it has been incredibly crucial to really have the pulse of our student body here at the University of Arizona. I think Dean Johnson expressed earlier those relationships. I always used to say, relationships are the secret sauce to everything. And having a really strong pulse on our student community here at the University of Arizona, knowing that we enroll 25% Latinx students, we also have a considerable Native American student population, large first gen, as well as low-income student population as well. And knowing those data points really helped us to better understand what some of those pervasive needs that were just considerably amplified during the pandemic. We knew prior to the pandemic that 3 out of 10 students experienced food insecurity. That's not, I can't eat once in a while. That's consistently, I don't have access or reliable access to a source of food, right? And that only further got exacerbated during the pandemic. One of the things that was incredibly helpful, not just in terms of having a good pulse on the student experience at the University of Arizona, but along with two colleagues of mine in the College of Education, we were awarded a one-year research grant from the National Science Foundation. And that allowed us to gather data about student and instructor experiences, not only at our HSI, but HSIs throughout the state of Arizona, so that we could actually leverage that data to better understand what some of these exacerbated needs were that were caused by the pandemic. And more importantly, my favorite part was putting that data to use. The tables that I was at and the decisions that I was able to make, particularly related to the source of funds, CARES Act that came to us, specifically by way of our Hispanic Serving Institution designation, which totaled $2.4 million. I was able to put that to work, informed by students and instructors who are experiencing it quite pervasively. Thank you.
Good afternoon, buenas tardes. My name is Dr. Dolores Duran Cerda, and I'm Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at Pima Community College. Thank you for having us here. It's an honor to be with these colleagues of mine. But today, I'd like to say that tonight is actually our graduation for Pima College. It's a virtual graduation, and it's really a time to celebrate. Despite everything that's happened this year, these students have succeeded. And it's with the help of their parents, their families, it's the help of the faculty and staff. So I express my gratitude because when we face challenges, there are also opportunities. And I saw this as an opportunity for us to really strive and strengthen our students. It was hard. In 1 week, as Dean Johnson said, in 1 week during spring break of last year, we had to prepare our faculty to get ready to teach completely virtually and online. And so they came out of spring break and they did their webinars on D2L. That's the platform that we use. Some of them have never used D2L before, but it was fortunate in that we were able to make a smooth transition to that pivot because each faculty member did have a shell of D2L because they're using the grade books. But now they had to use all the different features. So I'm grateful for them. They never complained. They rolled up their sleeves and worked. We worked very closely with our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion office. We have Hilda Ladner here, our DEI officer. We collaborated with the Teaching and Learning Center and then Pima Online. So all of us working together, as we talked about partnerships, external partnerships, but also internally, we became very close. And what the three things that I would say that really shaped my decision-making as the lead of academic affairs is equity, my concern for equity, and that was translated with all of the leadership at Pima College. It was also access, as we talked about, but innovation. So our faculty and our staff, because everything in student services went virtual too. And so everybody had to think innovatively and creatively and really ways to retain our students. Because enrollment is an issue, especially for community colleges. During recession times, our enrollment goes up. Not this time, it tanked nationally in community colleges. But we worked hard, and we have our graduation today, so there are lots of opportunities to be thinking about. So, thank you.
Let's really focus on solutions we can share together and partnerships we can develop. So as we move through the day, let's think about those things. What are things that Pima can do with Sunnyside, or what are you already doing, or what can we amplify?
So one of the things that my name is Mario Castro, by the way, principal for Pima JTED Central Campuses. One of the things is more of a qualitative analysis of just, browsing through news, Reddit, etc. is something we, as a group here, already knew is the value of teachers. And how many times did you read on Facebook, on Reddit, wherever, that parents were saying, can we go back to the classroom? I had no idea how difficult teaching is. And so finally, the value of teachers that we always had finally came out into the general public. And so now we can use that as leverage to go to our state and federal governments to say, these teachers deserve more money. They deserve to have a living wage so that they can provide for their families. But I don't want to stop there. Districts and schools need to partner with those same organizations so that we can provide the professional development that our teachers need to stay in the profession. I do agree that the metrics are high. We're expecting our teachers to do a lot. But I believe in those metrics in some form and fashion, especially as an industry principal where our state boards of nursing, cosmetology, et cetera, expect our students to perform in certain ways. We need to be able to give the resources that our teachers need to be able to teach our students so that they keep that information and they're able to pass these exams. So the value of teachers that has come out in the general public can be used as leverage so that we can pay them and we can continue to teach them so they can provide for our students.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm Hans Raymond, and I'm the Director of Online Schools of Arizona, which is a new concept that is coming into the state. It's kind of taking off from other parts of the country. And basically, what we're doing is kind of filling a need, I think, that has presented itself during this pandemic. One of the things that we really focus on is those students that aren't going to return to school, those students, those older students, okay? Those older students that for whatever reason, and that's really not why we're here, whatever the reason is that they could not continue with their education, get their diploma and move forward either in college or in a trade is, because maybe they're teen parents. The pandemic created a situation where they needed to support their families. Whatever the case may be, I think this is one of the things that we have grown to see as it's become very, very blatant for us in education that what we have done in the past is no longer going to work in the future. So we have to rethink what we're doing, that linear thought process that we have in public education. We have to be able to provide as a community, an educational community, all the services that all of our students need, not only the minority students, but those students that for whatever reason, okay, the cards that they were dealt aren't allowing them to do what they normally would do.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Anais Ballesteros. I'm the Communications Director for All in Education. We actually just started as a nonprofit in April of 2020, so pandemic newbies. And what came from that is we actually released a report right at the start of COVID of how the pandemic affected Latino parents in Arizona. From those findings, we found that parents actually felt that there wasn't enough engagement from the schools. We were actually some of the first people they talked to after the schools shut down. From that, we took those findings, developed a program called the Parent Educator Academy. It's the first year in its pilot, and what we're doing is helping parents with the skills and the knowledge of how to better support their children at home during this at-home learning situation we're in, but then also continue to support them in their educational journeys beyond this. And the great thing about this program is that we're actually looking to create pathways for those parents to become ready to be teaching assistants in the classroom, and hopefully at one point create that pathway to teacher recruitment from their communities. And during this first cohort, which actually they graduate next Wednesday, we have a group of 28 parents. One of them already secured a job, which is amazing. Another one wants to start a PEA group. Again, another amazing thing. We have the talent. The talent exists. We need to stop telling our community that talent isn't there. We just need to cultivate it. We need to give them the tools and the resources necessary to grow the teachers that we need or the paraprofessionals that we need. So what we're doing is partnering with schools in Yuma, Maricopa, and Pima counties. We're working with the community colleges there to make sure that we're able to provide that pathway where they can go on beyond our program and get certification beyond that.
So the next question is one that I think is probably on all of our mind. 500,000 students are not unaccounted for. They didn't come back to school. So the question I would ask is, of the three of you, maybe one at a time, tell us what your solutions are. We know that there's a lot of people in the room that are ready to partner, that are ready to jump in. We have many, many examples of community that are already doing many things volunteer-based, and that Tucson is always ready. So how can we create partnerships, or how can we help you all with this big number that is a little bit scary?
So I'll go first. I think 500,000, just a little high. Technically, I think factually that we know from the Arizona Department of Education, we have somewhere around 40,000 missing students. There's two types of students that we're looking at right now. Our office is partnered up with Superintendent Hoffman, ADE, to develop a task force, which is kind of a back-to-school task force, but also re-engagement task force. We know we have enrollment loss, but then we also have what's called missing students. So enrollment loss is in a couple categories. One is you have district schools and charter schools, and if a student leaves, that's enrollment loss. The other one is when you can't find the student and you don't know where they are. And those subgroups are pre-K, kinder, and first grade, and then we're focusing on the junior and senior level of those students. Defining that actual number of how many there are is very, very difficult to do. So ADE on paper has quoted close to about 40,000. We think the number could be as high as 100,000. Once this all gets shifted through over the summer, and we see the robust summer school programs come back, this will allow districts to finally take a first look of how many students are coming back and evaluate those numbers. But obviously, there's some big things to think in mind. One, parents have to have their students enrolled somewhere. That is a law. Between the ages of 6 and 16, your child must be enrolled in either a district, charter, private, or homeschool. A lot of parents understand the district and charter part. They don't really understand the homeschool part. So during the pandemic, if they decided for whatever reason they're going to homeschool their child, and we saw about a 300-400% increase in our homeschool enrollment, which our office does the affidavits for, a lot of parents didn't know that, so we don't know how to count some of those parents. So what we'd like to do is two things. Double down with Arizona Department of Education to work on this task force, work with all of the community leaders, and then have the business community parlay that as a re-engagement program to get the kiddos back into something that where we can find where the kids are. And then number two is parents have to go do one of those things. Either re-enroll at your school, or if you have done homeschool or private school, our office must have your affidavit. You don't get in trouble. There's no misdemeanor or a penalty or detention, right, Superintendent? No detention? Okay, no detention. But you've got to at least come down and fill out the affidavit so that we can track the numbers. So if someone does leave Sunnyside School District or charter school or wherever, we can help them find that student, because finding students is very, very difficult, because ultimately it becomes a one-on-one and I got to find you. If I don't have that phone number, if I can't find that parent, I don't know where they are, then that poses a lot of challenges.
I think one of the biggest issues is we've had a lot of housing insecurity. We're short 50,000 affordable homes that people can afford. I don't like to say affordable housing because there seems to be this sort of like stigma to it, and it really is, we want to make sure families, if you're a working family, you should be able to afford a house. And right now, our market is sort of like knocked people out, so we have a lot of multi-generational families, more than one family living together. And if no one was at school, because, all of our staff were home, there's no one to answer the phone, then what do you do? So I think some of that is just really a connection. And I had the opportunity to go through Summit View Elementary in Sunnyside last week, and their classes are almost at capacity. I mean, there seems to be a lot of students there. So as soon as the doors opened, we had more students come back. One of the biggest losses, though, was kinder in our district. And I don't know, if I were a mom of a 5-year-old, perhaps this year wouldn't have been the year I would have started that baby in school. But some parents did, some parents didn't. And so I think we're going to see more children come back as a result of that. I think it's going to be important, but we do need our media partners to really talk about the importance of getting back to school. Shoot it out on the radio and commercials and our educated community just really push that. I think is going to be really critical.
Great idea.
I'll be brief. Dustin took my 2 minutes, so I'll go 1 minute. So specifically for business partners, you all are positioned in a community, right? And I think it's really incumbent upon some level of reciprocity from business with schools to really help kind of get engaged and figure out how you can help and assist with some of these recovery efforts, some programs adopting the school. As cliche as that sounds, I think we've lost a sense of partnership, right, over these last year and a half, and more importantly, over time. Schools want partners. I think we need more business kind of reach out. It's going to be daunting on schools, so please don't misinterpret schools not knocking on doors as not wanting partnership. The reality is they're going to be mired in really trying to recover students and do everything else. But I think that additional support from businesses is going to be necessary. So please reach out to your community school or those schools that are sitting in your footprint. And I'm sure they'll have a lot that they can ask from you and a lot that you can give.
So one suggestion that I might make is it possible for each of you to provide the chamber with an idea of something that you need help in, and the chamber can then have it on a website or have it somewhere where if I have a little extra time, I want to knock on a door and say, parents, this is how you get your kid back into school, or this is how you get credit for teaching at home. What information would each of you like to share? Is that possible, Isabel? Okay. So I want to say something. Can you go to the slide with the Jetsons on it? There's a slide with the Jetsons.
Did you want me to sing the Jetsons?
Yes.
Jetsons. Oh, that's Flintstones. Sorry.
I think it's something that we should all do together. So today we talked about things that are difficult in our community. We have had some tough times. But in 1963, the Jetsons discovered, created, dreamed about telemedicine. They had Zoom calls. They had FaceTime on their phones. They had flat screen video chats. They had a camera pill that you could swallow, and it would tell you what was going on inside your body. This was very outlandish. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how old I was, but I did watch the Jetsons. And so when we have our kids, they come to us and they want to be educated, they want their dreams. This year has been kind of a flattening year, where for some of us it was tough to get up in the morning or to dream about things that we could do. But as educators, our job is to provide resilience, self-efficacy, to teach our students that they can do anything that they dream. And so I'll ask you and I'll challenge you, how are you or how are we going to keep that dream alive so that someone who's dreaming something really outlandish can make that dream come true? And I'll start with Marla.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to encourage the audience to consider, my colleague just mentioned tonight is Pima's graduation, and we have had a series of commencement ceremonies all week. And so both Pima and the University of Arizona in this community are going to have several thousands of graduates, college graduates with AAs, BAs, master's degrees, and PhDs. And when you think about your own commitment and desire for increasing the diversity of your workforce, we absolutely should be at two places that are top of mind for you. We have had obviously one heck of a year, our students have, but they've been preparing themselves for you. Despite the pandemic conditions, they've been committed to their studies to the best of their abilities. They've been engaged in career readiness. They've done perhaps maybe online internships. But they'll need your support to secure employment, and they'll need your support to transition and onboard to their employment experiences. So take them under your wing, mentor them. This is their first post degree opportunity. So take them, accept them, welcome them, mentor them, teach them, and grow them most importantly.
Thank you, Marla. And I, too, am grateful for our partnership with the University of Arizona, with JTED, and with the several school districts here. So Pima College is very grateful for that. What I wanted to say also is, at Pima College, we started a Breaking Student Barriers Task Force. And we came together and looked at what are the barriers, especially now with the pandemic and all the obstacles and policies and things like that. So it comprised of faculty, students as well, a student co-chaired along with a staff member, faculty member, and administrator. And we held student town halls. We wanted to hear the student voice. We wanted to elevate their voice. What did they go through? What were their experiences during this pandemic? And they shared, they were honest and candid. And okay, well, we realized that we need to address some things and some others. We did help them. With the CARES Act funding, we bought 1,000 devices and distributed them to the students and to our employees as well, because some of them didn't have a device or an internet access. Also, we talk about the graduates that are coming this year, but we also have to look at revising education, how we deliver education. So for example, in the community colleges, we're looking more at skills, 21st century skills. What are employers looking for? They're looking for collaboration, problem solving, empathy, resiliency. So we want to create more micro-credentials for those employers who have employees who have lost their jobs, or that were students at Pima College but decided, no, I need to feed my family and work, and so they stopped studying. Or that they had one device and they had 3 kids in school, and then themselves being at Pima College, they chose to provide that device to their children. So by creating these micro-credentials, they don't have to stay in college or a class for 16 weeks or 14 weeks. They're short, and then they can specify something specifically that they can show to their employer and then perhaps get promoted. So we have to think about revising education as well as part of this partnership in working and collaborating with everybody here. And thank you for being here.
So a quick story. I just want to let you know my dad, he was born in Nogales, Sonora, and he's one of 18 children. And he actually graduated from Sunnyside High School as a track and field runner. He got a scholarship to come to the U of A, and he actually ran around this track that used to exist back there. And he became a teacher. And for 37 years, as I was growing up, he told me, you need to go to college, you need to go to college, you need to go to college. So as an obedient son, I went to college. Really didn't know why I was going to college, but I fell in love with film and television, and so I got a degree in media studies, and then I became a teacher. And as I became a JTED CTE instructor, I started to understand that in his lens, college was the key to success. But we're talking about the evolution of education, and that evolution of education has to come from the involvement of parents understanding the way students succeed is not just through going to college, but it's through gaining those professional skills, right? The dual enrollment credit, the high school diploma. And so to me, it starts at home to let kids know, let's go through this journey together and let's find out what your strengths are. And college isn't ultimately what you need to do to be successful. I know plenty of masons, I know plenty of constructions and medical assistants and licensed nursing assistants who are very successful and feel very, very happy about what they've done in their lives, and then they continue to move forward. The whole point in this is just to say, what can you as industry partners of not only Tucson, but also Pima JTED and other districts in town, is how can you reach out to us so that we can be that liaison to the students and to our instructors, so that you can provide those opportunities so that students just don't feel they have to just go to college. They can go to college and work at a clinic, and then they can also do a myriad of other things so that they can feel successful.
Well, one of the things that Mario touched on was, students need to understand there's different pathways to success. Going to college right out of high school might not be the best option for a student. It may be somewhere down the road. They might need a skill. So in working with community and with partners with business and industry, I think it's real important, going back to finding those students. I think it kind of falls on the entire community that we get that word out through PSAs, through print media, whatever we need to do to make sure these students understand that we want them back. We're embracing them when they come back, but I don't know that they're looking for the same thing that they left. I think they're looking for something different. When you look at the Jetsons, and yes, I watched the Jetsons as well. I am that old as well. when you look at the Jetsons, it was so cool, but this is our new reality. And the question we have to ask ourselves in education, have we met the challenge of the new reality? I'm not sure that we have. So whether you're a traditional public school, whether you're a charter school, or whether you're a JTED, it's real important now that we all kind of work together, because we have such an array of students now that are coming from so many different backgrounds, that suffered so many different types of traumas, that they really need not only that education, but they also need those wraparound services that we don't have. I just heard today that the biggest thing right now is the mental health issues that we're going to have because of this pandemic, with not only with the adults, but particularly those children. And imagine, if you will, if we ever come to this again, those students that have been through it, the anxiety that they're going to go through, because they're going to have to do the same thing they did once before that a lot of them didn't like, and that's why we're losing students. And to mention those students that can't be found, you know, globally, this is a global situation. There's 25 million students. People don't know where they're at. They're not in school globally. So we're being tested in education, and teachers are being tested. And I think one of the things that legislators need to understand is the teaching is a profession now, and they need to be recognized as a profession, and they need to be compensated as well.
So I think what we hear is that we want to go back to how things were, but things didn't work before. So I think we have a unique chance to reimagine our education system. We have a unique chance to address the inequities that have existed all along. COVID just exacerbated them and really brought them to the surface, but low-income families of color have been dealing with these issues for a very long time. So we have a very unique chance to reimagine how we approach education in our communities and within our school systems. And we need to stop seeing Latino students and students of color as problems and as deficits to our community, because they make up 46% of our K-12 student population. They will be our future workforce. And if we don't start addressing these inequities and how the system is not working for them, we will not have an educated or prepared workforce. That means we will have more kids, more people, and more families living with poverty wages. That will affect Arizona's economy, and that's really the bottom line. We have a chance right now. So as school leaders, as school systems, as community members and business leaders, I urge you all to really look at what you can do as an individual and as a leader to change the school system and how we treat Latino students and students of color.
Wonderful. So I have a slide up here. Lots of beautiful faces. And the slide is, why are we here? Why are we here today? We have to celebrate the things that were positive, the things that happened that were great. I'm going to tell you a few things. Marty Cortez has spent this time taking food boxes to elderly in the community. Yolanda Gonzalez at Pima College immediately ran out and started getting as many computers as she could for her students. Countless volunteers went out and handed out food boxes. Adelita Grijalva, every weekend you see her at pop-up clinics trying to get everybody vaccinated. Francisco Garcia at the Pima County Health Director, every single night trying to figure out how are we going to get everyone vaccinated? How are we going to keep people safe? Richard Carmona at U of A, trying to keep our students safe. These are examples, and I know there's very few examples, but they told me I couldn't talk too much. So Isabel said, don't talk too much. But I want to really highlight that this is a great community that works, that rolls up their sleeves and works for our students. So this is going to be our last question, and then we're going to open it up for some questions. I guess what I'd like to give you all an opportunity to give us your, moving forward, this is what we're going to do differently for those students that we serve.
Okay, so this is my 5th year of being elected, and you get to learn a lot in this process. And I'll tell you right now that locally, what's happening in our schools and what's happening in our homes locally here in Pima County is really good. The teachers, what's happening, the administrators, the superintendents, there's some fantastic stuff going on. At the state level in our legislature, we have a major issue. And for too many years, several years, we do not have a correct balance of legislation. And for too long, that happens, it becomes greedy. And then the system doesn't work. And then you're stuck with laws that hinder you from growing and don't make you successful. We have laws right now getting ready to be passed that won't allow teachers to teach certain race criteria. So if we want to grow and we want to be a Jetson, where it all starts is allowing students to take risks. And we have to begin to have a balance, which means at one point or another, you're going to have legislators come together and work together to pass legislation collectively, not one side 31-29 or 16-14. It's gone on for too long. Until the voters decide to make that decision, we're going to be stuck in the same system. And that system is going to keep us down from growing, ultimately, in the state of Arizona.
I'd also like to add, one of the things that we know is that students who have educators and leaders who look like them thrive. It affects their social cycle development. So I'd like to really open that up. Is there a way that we can work together so that we can have more leaders of color, more full professors, more administrators of color?
So I'll just jump in and kind of try to bridge those two questions. I think first and foremost, I'm really working to ensure that students are agents of their own learning, really focusing on student agency. And communities like ours, many times you see very enabling classroom environments, right, which works against this development of future leaders, right? So we've been really pivoting instructionally on really trying to create some student agency in the classroom in the way we develop a learner-centered kind of classroom. To really, how that's shifting in our focus for this next year is really looking at the whole learner focus and really thinking of how students can also be agents of their own wellness, agents of their own kind of well-being as well. And so really developing a framework that really balances the academics and the wellness pieces, which it's hard to find because you have the incentive structures work against that, right, in current policy. So really working within our system to really develop that framework has been our focus in service to future leaders that are going to be able to kind of navigate systems outside of school.
You know, we've been talking about the deficits of online learning, and I just have to give a shout out to the teachers and the staff members and the principals who tried to figure out, like they were literally building the plane while it was flying, you know? And so they really deserve so much admiration, respect for what they have been able to do, because in TUSD we lost we can't find 3,000 children, but we had 41,000 that were engaged every day. And so I think it's important for us to acknowledge those things, highlighting the fact that this system has really brought about we need to be able to work together to make the curriculum and the classroom relevant for our children. And the way we need our business community to jump in is to say, these are the skills that I'm looking for in the workforce. I have 10 positions and I can't find people to fill them. What are you looking for, and what can we do at the K-12 system, at Pima, at the U of A to make sure that we are incorporating that into the curriculum? Because we want our best and brightest to stay here. We don't want them to leave. And the only way to do that is to make sure that we're engaging them every day.
Just quickly, two things. Here at the University of Arizona, one of the things that we have the opportunity to actually launch this summer is a curriculum redesign institute. I think one priority, of course, is our continued expectation around diversifying our administrators, our faculty, and our staff. It's absolutely true. Students observe and take note when their faculty and instructors don't look like them, don't have background characteristics and histories that they can connect to. And so we want both the diversity, but we also want folks to be equity-minded. And we want folks to be skilled in knowing how to appropriately weave in curriculum that really affirms who students are and acknowledges and invites students to bring their whole selves into the classroom. At that point, they will feel a sense of connection and belonging to their learning environment. The other thing, you asked, why are we here? And I'm here because we don't do this work alone. One of the things that we were able to launch during the pandemic was in January, there are actually 22 Hispanic serving institutions in the state of Arizona. And we were able to bring the presidents and chancellors and senior level leaders together during a meeting the latter part of January, and really come together as a community of practitioners to say, we've got one thing in common, even though there are several things perhaps that are different and unique about us. And can we rally together to have common cause around supporting Latinx students across the state of Arizona at our Hispanic Serving institution. So I'm really pleased to see that effort come together. I think that there's a lot of promise and excitement about where we're headed.
And thank you. I'm a part of that too, Pima College, and it's exciting to get all of us together. So being equity-minded is essential. As I said before, my primary concern was equity and access. And so we're thinking of ways to embed equity, not just coming from one office, one person, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Office, but it has to be embedded, as you said, Mara, in the curriculum. So one thing that we're looking at is when we onboard new faculty, we hire new faculty, is that we provide an equity-minded certification. So from the get-go, they know what it is how to teach with that equity lens to our students. And also we've developed a new diverse faculty hiring handbook that also is promoting diversity of all kinds for our faculty. Because it's true, seeing faculty that look like you in the front of the classroom is so meaningful and lasting. The other thing I wanted to say that's a little more, well, we're talking about post-COVID new normal. That's what we say at Pima. We're never going to go back to how things were before. But we have to look beyond the pandemic. I brought this report. It's called The Demographic Drought, How the Approaching Sansdemic Will Transform the Labor Market for the Rest of Our Lives. And it was published by EMSI. Sansdemic means sans is without, demic is people. So this whole report, and I can share it with the chamber, and with anybody who wants it, talks about the vanishing workforce. The baby boomers are retiring. Where there's a birth dearth. Not many. We don't have as many kids as we did before in graduating from high school. So we have to upskill and reskill the current people that we have. And I know we're running out of time, so I'll stop there. Thank you.
I think I'm here because I want to make sure that we provide our students with choices, to piggyback on what I said earlier. And I seal this, and I think he'll know it. You have to provide our students with agency. Did I say that right, Mr. Holmes? Right. That's the ability for the student to be able to own what they're doing and the choices that they make. And the only way that they can do that is if they get those things that we're trying to give them, which is the dual enrollment credit, the high school diploma, the professional skills, the licenses and the certifications. I want to be able to say by the time that student walks across the threshold of any graduation, that they can make the choice of where they want to move forward. And I think by working with industry partners like yourselves here, that if you want to come and speak to a class, awesome. If you have positions that you need to fill, come talk to us. Our member district, not just JTED Central Campus, but our member districts like Sunnyside, Flowing Wells, we have plenty of CTE programs who have students who are waiting to fill those positions so that they can learn what it means to be in the workforce, what it means to continue education if you offer that. That's what I want to make sure that we provide here, is our students with choices on how they're going to live their life.
I'll agree once again with Mario. I mean, the reason I'm here, I started in '81 too. You know what? Computers, it's like, whoa. And when those things came on board, we're like, okay, it's great, but it's also a double-edged sword. I think one of the things that we need to really keep in mind and take into consideration when it comes to our students is that we're all in this together, once again. It's going to take all of us to do things. Mr. Holmes talks about student agency. It's a phenomenal concept that he brought to that district. I think everybody needs to get on board with that. It puts the onus on our students, but the other thing is we really need to identify with our students. And when I say identify that's that relationship building, get to know your students, get to understand what they're thinking. Because students, when you get a student, they're judging you. They're testing you to see if they want to bring you into the fold for them. And that's where that's your opportunity to really communicate with those students and really build those relationships with them and with their extended family.
So I'll start by giving these data points. So 46% of Arizona's K-12 student population are Latino. 16% of teachers are Latino. And only 13% of our school boards at a state level are Latino. Lived experience matters. And if we don't have Latinos representing the kids that we serve, we're missing out. Lived experience matters so much. So until we tell Latinos, you're ready to serve on school boards, you're ready to be a teacher, you're ready to be a CEO, you're ready to be any type of leader in our community, this won't change for us. As an organization, we exist to provide all students with access to opportunity and justice. And to do this, we're addressing the gaps in representation across boardrooms and classrooms. We have 2 programs right now that will prepare Latinos and people of color to represent on school boards, and then prepare next-gen leaders to become leaders in our communities. So if anybody knows of anybody who's interested in applying for these programs, please just come talk to me after this. They both start in the fall.
Thank you. So that concludes your comments. We have a little tiny bit of time for questions. Can you put the next slide up? So the question today has been, how can we work together? How can we take the lessons learned? And how can we use a strength-based approach to really collaborate and amplify what we've learned? So I've got one more tiny little slide. So if a tortilla can rise, so can we. Okay. So we're all going to rise. I think we have a little bit of time for questions. I'll open it up for questions. Anybody? And thank you. Today your comments have been phenomenal. So much great energy, so much wonderful work that you all do on a daily basis. We cannot thank you enough for what you do.
Can I add one thing? Because one of the things that we're talking about as far as strengths in our community, I think that we need to value and honor bilingualism, bicultural. That's what our people, that's what I'm looking for in people that are working for me and surround myself with, because I think it's relevant to the communities that we're serving, and because it is, again, a shared experience that we all do. And so one of the things that when I was in school was really shut down. My dad was the same way. You don't talk about the fact that you can speak Spanish. You try to hide that accent. You try to hide your culture and who you are. And I feel like in our community now, we appreciate that and we value that, and I want to make sure that we're cultivating that in our young people.
Call to the community, and we talked about collaboration, connection. Is there one connection you like to connect with that you haven't already that's going to benefit your programs or your organization that that you like to collaborate with and connect with? Just one group, whether private business or nonprofit, something along those lines.
We're just talking, Delita and I, just adopt a school. I mean, that's such a simple point of entry. Schools struggle with like simple stuff like really like putting meals for teachers. I think there's going to be desire to celebrate teachers coming back and the stressors that come with that, but there's not a funding mechanism for that. right? And so as simple as engaging business to come and sponsor a breakfast in the morning, some of those things that are much more difficult to do, and just to build back culture around a very kind of difficult time in the climate that's created is a really just real quick point of entry that I think could be easily accomplished.
One of the things that Wright Elementary has is a organization that that adopted them, and it's called Wright Flight. So if you're a child that has a high GPA, you've overcome some adversity, you get to go and do a flight in a plane. And I can't tell you how that incentive makes a huge difference for these little elementary kids. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to get that A up so I can go fly. And those things are not, for the company, it's not a significant investment, but for those kids, it's life-changing.
And for those of you who feel like you want to donate and you own some sort of a lunch company, that's great advertising, great marketing. You have a good product, you take it to the teachers, now suddenly they're all buying you your product.
Yeah, I'd like to just kind of echo on that. It's what we find a lot is a lot of questions. The teachers come and they'll have a program, but there won't be the funding for what they want to do. So they might want to do an after-school STEM program. They'll need a projector and the computer and however they want to put that together, but they'll be $1,500 short to do the entire project. So what I would like is a mechanism to find out how I can get those funds or that organization connected to that school. So when they call us, obviously they think a lot of times that county offices have all the money in the world to just give them that, which we don't. Wish we would, Ms. Grijalva, but
Me too. That's a state issue.
Actually, Ms. Grijalva is more than generous what she's doing, especially with preschool coming here with scholarships to 1,000+ kids, which is amazing, by the way, to work on the equity gaps that we've all discussed here. So congratulations and thank you for that. But that mechanism of when we get those asks from so many of the constituents in the county, I want to do this idea. I want the Jetsons idea in my classroom. And schools, although there is funding coming in now, have not had funding for multiple years and are still backlogged of billions of dollars. That is what I want everyone to really understand. We're last in the nation in funding for not 5 years, not 10, but 25+ years. We talked about when you're in school in 81, we had a better track record pre-81 than we do now. That's not acceptable here with the clientele and the people that we have. So that mechanism, if you can help bridge that together, and maybe it's the chamber, or we can call and say, hey, here's what we need, we'll do that.
Sounds like a great idea for the chamber to have the Jetsons Scholarship Initiative, where any
Los
business
Jetsons.
can come and
The Elroy
get money.
Scholarship.
The Jetsons Initiative, something very cool. So there's definitely lots of great ideas. I think we've got room for another one question.
So I like the idea that Mr. Johnson brought up about that he has 50 teachers that are working in the summers as employees of industry back through the STEM programs. One of the things I'd like to ask when you come back to Sunnyside, some of the other districts and their CTE programs, how do we expand that program to where the construction teachers, the film teachers, the automotive teachers have those great summer jobs to keep their skills fresh? Is there a way to expand that program and incorporate it without issues of pay and other things?
Mario?
I'll borrow this. Yeah, actually, we've focused on STEM so far, but we're actually looking at expanding all kinds of other things. By the way, we've had many CTE teachers be part of this already, but we're actually looking at expanding it to teachers in other subject areas as well. That's a great idea. We're trying to figure out how to do that.
Well, because we already hire some of those on our own, and so does the automotive industry, but it's not formalized. And if you
Right.
formalize it, you get more momentum, you get
Absolutely.
more opportunities, and then you can attract more depth for your CTE functions.
Absolutely.
At the teaching.
Yeah, if any of you are interested in that, it's called Teachers in Industry. If you just Google that, you'll find it, and I'd be happy to chat with anybody who's interested in participating.
I'd like to thank the Tucson Hispanic Chamber for being community-minded, for being relentless in helping our community and in working for the interests of our businesses and our education. I'd like to thank all of the wonderful, wonderful panelists, and I'd like us to give them a big hand.
Thank you, Dr. Ramos. Thank you, everybody in attendance. This was fantastic. We have some rock stars up here doing wonderful things in the community. We could have this conversation for hours. So we're going to have you back next year. Okay, does that sound good? We'll start on that end and come this way. There were a few things that I heard before we wrap up that resonated with me. We heard about societal challenges like lack of high-speed internet, food insecurity, issues with capacity in classrooms, students dropping out. Those are things we have to address now. We can't wait for those. But we also have some great opportunities. Parent Educator Academy, how great is that? My son could have used that with my grandkids. Education and private sector collaborations, appreciation of teachers and opportunities for better pay and acknowledgement. Let's get that going as soon as possible. Different pathways for success, delivering methodologies for providing 20th century skills. Pima College, you're doing that, good job. University of Arizona, you're doing that, good job. Reimagination of how to deliver education. If there's no better time, that's right now. We learned a lot of things about that. Student agency, okay? And one thing that really resonated with me is you're ready to be. You're ready to be part of this. I was having that conversation in the back, that we as Hispanics are ready to be. We're ready to participate, and we have to teach our kids that. We have to teach our grandkids that. Okay? The one thing I want to say is if we have a scholarship, a Jetson scholarship, it'll be called El Roy, not Elroy.
El Roy.
El Roy.
I like how that sounds.
We want to go ahead and wrap it up now. We're running a little bit over. I want to thank all of our sponsors. I want to thank our community members. I want to thank the Sands Club. I want to thank the video team. I want to thank the staff at the Chamber for all that they do to put these events together. We've got a great team of people. We have a lot of collaboration going on. I want to thank, of course, the board members, because we do some work. There's a lot more coming. So we want you to engage. We want you to attend our roundtables, whether you do it virtually, whether you do it in person. We're trying to bring you quality information. As you can see, there's a lot going on. Our next roundtable is on June 23rd. It's about the local economy and infrastructure. It all ties together, folks. And we want to make sure that we're providing you with relevant content. Again, thank you for attending. For those of you online, thank you for attending. We appreciate it. Let's give our folks who participated one more round of applause. Have a great, have a safe, have a prosperous day. Give me a bear down.
Bear down.
All right, thank you, everybody.